All right, today I got one of the biggest errors I see in retirement planning, and it's highlighted in a comment from a viewer. Now, I'm not meaning to pick on this viewer. I love the comments, but there is a big trap in here in this thinking. So I'm going to read this without, stating the name of the person that supplied it, and then I'm going to show you a chart that kind of highlights the fallacy here. See if you can pick it up in this verbiage. I made a video on the worst environment advice on YouTube. And in that video, I said I was lucky that I didn't have a sequence of return in the first 7 years of my retirement. And I stand by that. But so here's the comment to that when I said I was lucky. Actually, Joe, you're not lucky. Average rate of return since 1945 for the S&P is 11.1. Over the last 15 years, it's been 13.8. So really, you're just in the middle of an average return. I do agree that you need to have cash/bonds, etc., to have short-term security in case of downturns, which of course there have been. Since 1945, 3 out of 4 years have been positive. The average time to regain those downturns, how long the market takes to recover, has been 3 months in a pullback, 8 months in a correction, and 2 years in a full bear market. So as long as you have 2 years covered of expenses, you're fine. Okay, that's the comment. So here's the error. As long as you have 2 years to in fix to cover a down market, you're fine. Okay, let's take a look. Let's go to the chart, right? Let's go to the chart. So I'm going to share my screen here. I think I'm sharing. Okay, I've shown this before. This is S&P 500 bear markets just since 1950. There have been 11 such events, 11 events. Okay, so I'm not going to read all these to you, but here in 1957, July through that was the peak, and here's the trough, was in October of 57, so just 3 months. It went down almost 21%. So then those days was 99 days, peak to trough, but then you got to go back up, ride the bear market back up to reach all new time highs again. That was in 58, September. So a total number of days to new highs is 436, okay? That's 1.2 years. I made it in years over here on my chart. I copied this from someplace else, so 1.2 years. So that's hey, 1.2 years, hey, 2 years of expenses, got that covered. Well, let's have a little fun here, and let's look at 1973, January to October of 74, a 48% downturn, 630 days, did not recover until 1980, 2,744 days, 7.5 years, 7.5 years. And look at that, within another, well, I guess it was, that's 1980. And then, oh yeah, here we go. July 1980 is when it reached new highs. And then very quickly in November of 1980, you had another 27%. So you had this 7.5 downturn years to recover with a 1.9 right on its heels. Well, folks, that's 9 years or so. Okay, 9 years or so to, if you didn't time it perfectly there. And then you had to, the lost decade. We've all heard about that. 2000 to 2002, down 49%, 929 days. Time to recover, 1,694, which is 7.2 years. And then right on the heels of that, this is May of 07 to October of 07, it went down 56.8%. Okay. And took until the 13 to recover. So 7 plus 5, almost, you can round that up. These two, that's close to 13 years We call it a lost decade. Well, that's being kind. It's really 13 years. Now, my point is, and from this comment, the individual was talking about on average, you need 2 years. You don't retire on averages. You retire on what you get this year, next year. If the next 5 years are down and over the next 15 years, it averages out to 10, 11%, that's fine. But what about the 5? What about the 5? You retire to individual bear markets or sequence of return risk. Okay, so you had 11 events here, and we had, let's just count the ones that are over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them were over 2 years. What's the difference between you retiring to that average and having it, cover your, have your expenses covered with maybe cash? Or when I say cash, folks, I'm really talking about money market funds, bond funds, short-term treasuries, those kind of things where you're maximizing your return. Now you're getting somewhere around 4%. I'm not talking about cash in your mattress, okay? I'm talking about very liquid, not linked to the market assets, okay? Maybe that's a fallacy, but that's how I think about it. Non-equity, risked investments. So 4 out of the 11, you're talking, 40%, a little less than 40% of the time. That's a lot of luck in there. So what do you want to plan for? I say that I have 10 years expenses. Now this is net of income. So I have some income from a pension. I got $16,000 a year in pension. I have some deferred comp coming in. I make some YouTube videos and make some income off that. So what do I need from my fixed income to get me to 10 years? That's what I have in my bucket 1. Why 10 years? Well, you're looking right at it. Okay. I don't want one of these, 7.5, that's been the longest. So you could argue 7 or 8, but then you quickly follow that up with a 1.9 and a 5.5. So you got to be good to time that. And I don't like being good. I like to sleep at night. I like not to worry about this. So if you're feeling good about having 2 years, ready for a bear market and then the return, you're going to be right about 60% of the time. That's not a very good place to be retired. Now, a couple caveats here. I said my biggest concerns are the back-to-back bear markets, but also this does not include dividends. So it's a little better than this, okay, with dividends, but it's also a little worse than this because this does not include the loss of purchasing power due to, inflation. So if you go into a 7-year bear market, total recovery time is 7 years. All the inflation that has been in place for those 7 years really doesn't put you back at break even though the stock's at the same price. So some of these, the dividends and inflation kind of, they work in different directions. But this is why I have 10 years. And people say I'm crazy to have 10 years. I think you're crazy to have 2. You could argue maybe 5 or 6 or 7. But 2 just doesn't cut it for me. So, hey, folks, today's sponsor is Money Pickle. Money Pickle, there's a link below. It's a 3rd link or so. And it's a free financial advisor to answer your question. If you have a question with, how many years should I cover in fixed assets? Here's my plan. Here's my income. Here's where I'm invested. Does that make sense? It's a free 45-minute phone call, no obligation. It's actually complimentary is the correct word I should be using. Complimentary. They'll sit down with you and answer your question. The first 40 minutes of this call, they promised me they're only going to answer your question. That's the feedback I've been getting. They're answering your question. The last 5 minutes, you may have a short discussion on what's next. You may like who you're talking to. You may decide that you don't want to follow up with the individual. You got your question answered and you're happy being a DIYer. That's perfectly fine. No pressure at all. Money Pickle, great resource to you If you want to run a question like bucket one, how big should it be? How much should I have in fixed? Give the folks at Money Pickle, ask that question. Another very popular question is timing of Social Security. Here's what I'm planning on doing and why. What are the pros and cons of that? They'll answer that question. Okay. So try the folks at Money Pickle. No obligation to you at all. No high pressure sales at all. I've gotten great response from people checking out Money Pickle. There you go. It's Joe out.